In 1962, there was a murder at the little native town of Galena on the banks of the Yukon River in Alaska. This story is not about flying, but rather is about this little airstrip with a native village and what seemed like a throwback to the days of the gold rush. Galena had a short runway and a 50-foot high dike all around the base to keep out the Yukon River during the spring floods. We stood alert 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from the little alert hangar near the end of the runway. It was challenging to fly out of Galena, flying over that 50-foot dike to land on a short ice-covered runway. But we often would be able to catch the Russians from there with our F-102s. During the winter, we would sometimes go down into the town to watch the natives with their dog teams pulling in dried salmon from nearby towns. Galena didn't offer much other entertainment during the long winter months except to go downtown and get drunk in the local bar. One day, we got a series of phone calls telling us about the murder in Galena. A young man and his father-in-law got into a violent argument in the bar. The young man pulled out his hunting knife, stabbed his father-in-law, who fell down dead. The young man wiped the blood off his knife, said a few choice words, and stomped across the street to his house. The other patrons of the bar had a round of drinks in memory of the dead man and didn't know what to do next. There was no policeman in Galena, so they called the air police at our air base, but the air police had no jurisdiction there and would not get involved. Someone asked if the man was really dead. One man said, "Well, I've seen a lot of dead moose, and this guy looks pretty dead to me." "You've had no medical training, and you don't have any authority to declare a man dead," said another. They called our base medical clinic, and our nurse agreed to go out and take a look at him. Our nurse examined him and declared him really, truly dead. Then she called our base chaplain and asked him to say some last rites over the man. The chaplain said some last rites, wished the man Godspeed on his way to the happy hunting ground, then stood up and said, "And where is the young man who did this horrible deed?" The barkeep solemnly pointed across the street. Then the chaplain went over, knocked on the door. The door opened, the chaplain said a few words, then stepped in, and the door closed. Everyone looked at each other, and then they had a round of drinks in memory of the chaplain. It would take at least a day for a state trooper to fly out from Anchorage, and the dead man was still lying there on the floor of the bar. The barkeep said the dead man couldn't stay there because the customers had to step over him as they came in and out of the bar. And besides, pretty soon he'd start to spoil. The bartender and a couple of the customers picked up the dead man and carried him out and put him in the meat locker along with the moose. When the Alaska State Trooper arrived, he examined the body, then asked where the man was. The barkeep pointed across the street. The trooper went across the street, knocked on the door. The chaplain came out, said a few words with the trooper, then went in the house and came out with the young man, who gave himself up. The trooper took the man back to Anchorage for trial, and we in the alert hangar enjoyed this experience of how justice must have been done in the early days of Alaska.